Hi, my name is Nancy, and today I am sharing my story, a story of trust, betrayal, and the shocking truth I discovered years later. I still remember the sound of the wedding music before I even saw the hall. It was floating in the air, soft and slow, the kind of music that makes people smile without thinking, the kind that promises happiness forever. The kind played when two people believe they are starting the best chapter of their lives. But instead of warmth, it made my hands shake. I stood there, just outside the venue, frozen in place. Cars were parked neatly along the road. Guests were laughing, fixing their clothes, checking their phones, excited to be part of something joyful. No one noticed me. No one knew what I was carrying in my bag. No one knew why my heart was beating so loud it felt like it might give me away. 5 years earlier, when I was just 21, this same man had stood in front of me. Not in a wedding hall, not under bright lights, but in a quiet moment that felt just as serious. He had looked into my eyes and promised me forever. I remembered his voice, calm, confident, certain. "I'm not like other people," he had said. "When I promise something, I mean it." I believed him, and now, here I was, standing outside his wedding venue, holding an envelope that could change everything. The envelope felt heavier than it should have. It wasn't thick. It wasn't fancy. Just plain paper. But inside it was the truth. A truth he had spent years hiding behind smiles, excuses, and perfect appearances. I took a deep breath. I wasn't there to cry. I had done enough of that years ago, alone in my room, staring at my phone, waiting for messages that never came. I wasn't there to beg. I had begged once too, not with words, but with my silence, hoping he would realize what he was losing. He never did. And I wasn't there to stop the wedding. This wasn't about ruining a day. It was about stopping a lie. I was there to tell the truth. As I stood there, memories rushed back without warning. The first time he held my hand, the way he smiled when he thought I wasn't looking, the promises whispered late at night when the world felt small and safe. All of it felt so real back then. That's the scariest part about betrayal. It doesn't come from strangers. It comes from people you trust with your heart. A group of guests walked past me, laughing. Someone mentioned how lucky the bride was. Someone else said his name with admiration, calling him a good man. I almost laughed. If they only knew. I adjusted my grip on the envelope. My palms were sweaty now. My heart felt tight, but my mind was clear. For the first time in years, I wasn't confused. I wasn't questioning myself. I knew exactly why I was here. This wasn't revenge fueled by anger. This was justice fueled by truth. I thought about the woman inside that hall, the bride, standing somewhere behind those doors, probably nervous, probably excited, probably believing every word he had told her. Just like I once did, she deserved the truth. Not tomorrow, not after the honeymoon, not years later, when leaving would hurt even more. Now, the music grew louder as the doors opened briefly, letting out a wave of happiness and applause. I caught a glimpse of white flowers and bright lights. A perfect setting for a perfect lie. My chest tightened. For a moment, Dal whispered in my head, "What if you're wrong? What if you should just walk away?" What if this isn't your place anymore? But then I remembered the nights I couldn't sleep, the questions he never answered, the way my world had fallen apart while he walked away untouched. Silence had protected him long enough. I straightened my back. This wasn't about holding on to the past. It was about closing it properly. As I took my first step toward the entrance, time felt strange, like everything slowed down. Each step echoed in my mind. Each breath felt heavy but steady. I wasn't angry. I was calm. Calm in a way that only comes when you finally stop blaming yourself. I didn't know exactly how the night would end. I didn't know who would believe what. I didn't know how he would react when the truth reached him. But I knew one thing for sure. By the end of the night, no matter what happened next, no one would look at him the same way again. 5 years earlier, my life was simple in a way I didn't even realize at the time. I was 21, standing at that strange age where you feel grown but still unsure. I was still figuring out who I was, what I wanted, and where I was going. But one thing I believed deeply was this love was supposed to feel safe. It was supposed to be a place you could rest, not something you had to guard yourself from. That's when I met Ryan. He didn't enter my life like a storm. There was no drama, no grande gestures. He was quiet in a comforting way. He wasn't loud. He wasn't flashy. He didn't try to impress everyone in the room. Ryan had a calm presence, the kind that makes you feel like everything is under control just by standing near him. When I talked, he really listened. Not the way people nod while waiting for their turn to speak, but the way someone listens when they actually care. He remembered the smallest things. How I took my coffee, what music I played when I was stressed, the stories I had already told him, even the boring ones. Those little things made me feel seen. When I doubted myself, he knew exactly what to say. Not big speeches, just quiet reassurance. A hand on my back, a soft smile, a simple, "You're doing fine," and I believed him. When he held my hand, it felt like the world slowed down. Like all the noise in my head finally went quiet. Being with him felt easy, safe, like I didn't have to pretend or perform or prove anything. When he smiled at me, I felt enough. Not perfect, not extraordinary, just enough. And for someone my age, that feeling meant everything. We spent hours talking about nothing and everything. Late nights turned into early mornings without us even noticing the time. We shared dreams the way young people do, without fear, without doubt. We talked about the future like it was guaranteed. Not if things worked out, but when marriage, a small home filled with laughter, Sunday mornings, growing old together, it all felt so real, so close, like we were just following a path that was already laid out for us. I trusted him with my time, with my heart, with my fears. I told him things I had never said out loud before. My insecurities, my past hurts, the parts of me I usually kept hidden, and he didn't pull away, or at least it didn't seem like he did. Looking back now, I realize how deeply I trusted him, how easily I handed over parts of myself without hesitation. I believed love meant giving fully without holding back. I believed trust was proof of strength. I didn't question him. I didn't check his phone. I didn't doubt his words. Why would I? Love felt safe. And when love feels safe, you don't look for danger. I had no idea that the very thing I was proud of, my trust, would one day leave me unprotected. Because sometimes the people who make you feel sick are the ones who know exactly how to hurt you the most. At first, the changes were so small that I almost felt silly noticing them. Nothing dramatic, nothing obvious. Just little moments that didn't quite fit. Missed calls. I would call him, expecting to hear his voice, and the phone would keep ringing. No answer. Later, a short message would appear, casual and light, like nothing had happened. Late replies. Hours would pass before he responded, even though I knew he was online. When I asked, he'd say he was busy, that he didn't see the message, that his day had been long, plans canceled at the last minute, dinners postponed, weekends suddenly full, promises turned into maybe next time. Each time, there was a reason that sounded reasonable enough. Whenever I asked him about it, he never hesitated. I'm just stressed. Work is crazy right now. You're He said it so calmly, so confidently, that I felt embarrassed for even asking. Like I was the problem. Like my questions were unfair, and I believed him. Because when you love someone, you don't want to imagine them hurting you. You look for explanations that protect the relationship, not threaten it. You choose comfort over suspicion. I told myself everyone goes through busy phases, that relationships aren't perfect. That trust means giving the benefit of the doubt. But somewhere deep inside, my gut didn't feel calm anymore. It wasn't loud. It wasn't panicked. It was quiet, uneasy, persistent. I started noticing things I hadn't noticed before. The way he turned his phone away when a message popped up. How he smiled at the screen, then quickly locked it. How he'd answer calls in another room. His voice suddenly lower. His warmth changed to, he still held my hand, but it felt different. He still kissed me, but it felt rushed. He was there, but not really present. The comfort I once felt around him started to fade, replaced by a strange tension I couldn't explain. Conversations felt shorter. Silences felt heavier. Still, every time doubt crept into my mind, I pushed it away. I told myself I was being insecure. I told myself not to ruin something good with unnecessary fear. I reminded myself of all the reasons I trusted him, because love isn't supposed to feel like an investigation. Love isn't supposed to make you count hours between messages or analyze the tone of a text. Love isn't supposed to be suspicious, right? So I stayed quiet. I ignored the signs. I smiled when something felt off. I chose hope over instinct. I didn't know then that those small cracks were warning signs. And like most people in love, I didn't realize it was breaking until it finally did. The truth didn't come from him. It didn't come during a confession or a moment of guilt or a late night apology. It came from a stranger. It was late at night when my phone buzzed. I remember lying in bed, half asleep, not expecting anything important. When I saw the notification, my first thought was that it was a wrong message. A name I didn't recognize, a profile picture of a girl I had never seen. I almost ignored it, but something told me not to. Her message was short, careful, controlled. Her words were simple, cold, straight to the point. Hey, I think we're dating the same guy. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My heart dropped so fast it felt like the room tilted. I read the message again, hoping I had misunderstood, hoping it was a joke, hoping there was some explanation that would make this disappear. There wasn't. My hand started shaking as I typed back, asking what she meant. Within seconds, more messages came in. Details I recognized, dates that matched, stories that sounded painfully familiar. She wasn't guessing. She was certain. Every excuse I had made for him suddenly felt stupid. Every moment I had ignored rushed back all at once, forming a picture I didn't want to see. I didn't cry. Not yet. I confronted Ryan immediately. I called him, my voice tight, trying to stay calm. At first, he left. Not nervously, not guiltily, just a light laugh, like I had told him something ridiculous. You're serious, he said. Then he denied it. He told me she was confused, that she was lying, that people make things up when they want attention. His voice was smooth, almost annoyed, like my questions were an inconvenience. When that didn't work, he blamed me. You're being dramatic. She's just a friend. You don't trust me. Each sentence felt like a push, moving the blame further away from him and closer to me. For a second, I almost believed him again. That's how convincing he was. Then I showed him the screenshots, the messages, the dates, the proof he couldn't explain away. I'll never forget the look on his face. The confidence disappeared. The excuses stopped. His eyes dropped. His jaw tightened. The room filled with a heavy silence that said more than any apology ever could. No apology came. No regret. Just silence. And in that silence, I realized something terrifying. He wasn't sorry he had hurt me. He was sorry he had been caught. I waited for him to say something. Anything that sounded like remorse. A promise to fix things. A sign that the man I loved was still there somewhere. Instead, after a long pause, he said the words that broke me completely. It just happened. Just happened. As if months of lies were an accident. As if my pain was a side effect. As if betrayal was something that simply fell into his life without choice. In that moment, everything I believed about him collapsed. The future we had planned, the trust I had given, the safety I had felt, all of it disappeared with one careless sentence. And I understood then that the person I loved never truly existed. He didn't fight for me. That was the part that hurt the most. There was no long conversation, no desperate apology, no moment where he tried to fix what he had broken. He didn't even explain. After everything came out, after the truth was sitting between us with nowhere left to hide, he simply stepped back. His words were few, empty, like he was already done. And in that silence, he made his choice. He chose her, not with a speech, not with honesty, but with his absence. And just like that, I was alone at 21. When I thought my life was just beginning, it felt like everything had suddenly ended. There was no closure, no real answers, no dignity. I didn't get the comfort of understanding why. I didn't get the respect of honesty. I was left with questions that echoed in my mind long after he walked away. I cried for weeks. Not the kind of crying that looks dramatic. The quiet kind. The kind where you wake up with a heavy chest and fall asleep with swollen eyes. The kind where tears come without warning, in the middle of the day, over the smallest things. I replayed every moment in my head, every laugh, every promise, every sign I ignored. I blamed myself. Was I not enough? Did I love too much? Did I trust too easily? I searched for mistakes that would explain his betrayal, because blaming myself felt easier than accepting that someone I loved could hurt me so carelessly. While I was breaking in private, he was moving on in public. He posted happy photos, smiling captions, moments that made it look like he had never lost anything. Friends congratulated him. People commented hearts and laughter, and every post felt like another reminder that I had been erased. Meanwhile, I was learning how to breathe again. Some days, getting out of bed felt like a victory. Some days, it felt impossible. I had to relearn who I was without him, without the future I had imagined, without the version of myself that believed love was always safe. Slowly, something inside me began to change. The sadness didn't disappear, but it settled into something quieter, something heavier, something more aware. I stopped crying every day. I stopped checking his page. I stopped waiting for explanations that would never come. I didn't want revenge. Not yet. I didn't want to hurt him the way he hurt me. I didn't want chaos or drama. I didn't want to be the person consumed by anger. I wanted peace. I wanted to feel normal again. I wanted to feel whole. I wanted my life back. And for a while, I believed that walking away silently was enough. But life has a strange way of bringing unfinished stories back to the surface. And I had no idea that the pain I was trying so hard to leave behind was only the beginning. Months had passed since I had been left alone, and life was slowly settling into a new rhythm. I was learning to focus on myself, on my work, on the small victories that didn't involve him. One quiet afternoon, while clearing old emails, I stumbled across something unusual, a notification for an old shared account, something I hadn't noticed before. Curiosity tugged at me. I hesitated for a moment, thinking maybe I shouldn't, but the memory of betrayal had sharpened a part of me I didn't even know existed. I clicked. What I found shocked me. It wasn't just a few stray messages or casual chat logs. It was a pattern. Dates, conversations, plans, proof of things I had never imagined. Ryan hadn't just cheated on me. He had been living two lives, not in secret flirtation, not in a brief mistake. This was systematic, careful, calculated. He had promised marriage to both of us. He had borrowed money from me, claiming it was for emergency. And from her, for different reasons entirely. He had lied about his work, his schedule, even the little stories he told me about his family and friends. Every lie had been perfectly crafted to maintain two separate worlds without either of us knowing. I sat there staring at the screen, heart pounding. A strange mix of anger and disbelief rushed through me. I couldn't breathe at first. My hands were shaking, my stomach twisted in knots. And then something shifted. Pain transformed into clarity. This wasn't love gone wrong. This wasn't a mistake of the heart. This wasn't even a fleeting betrayal. This was manipulation. I felt a cold clarity wash over me, sharper than any anger I had felt before. He wasn't careless or weak. He wasn't human in the ordinary way of making mistakes. He had planned it. He had executed it. And he had trusted that no one would ever discover the truth. I realized something crucial in that moment. People like that, people who lie, cheat, and manipulate, they don't stop. Not unless someone exposes them. Not unless someone holds up a mirror so they can see themselves for what they really are. I closed the laptop, the envelope of evidence. I didn't yet know I'd create Foreman in my mind. I wasn't ready to act yet. I wasn't ready to confront him, but I knew one thing. The next time, there would be no silence. And that realization, that power, was the moment I began to understand that the story wasn't over. Not by a long shot. This was just the beginning of the reckoning. I didn't confront him. I didn't post online. I didn't warn anyone. I waited 4 months, then years. Life went on. I buried the anger, the hurt, the confusion deep inside. I focused on myself, on the life I still had to live. I finished my studies, slowly building a routine that felt steady. I started my career, finding pride in achievements that had nothing to do with him. I healed quietly, day by day, learning to breathe without the weight of betrayal.